Good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos.
For those of you who are joining us online once again, I understand that there was some technical problem this morning which gave you only audio and no sound, no video, but that I understand has now been corrected. So, though I can't apologize for something that's not in our control, what I can do is say I'm sorry for any inconvenience that was caused to you, and I hope you will enjoy Shabbat with us, not only today but for continue being with us. I also want to welcome back Damien. Good to see you, man. It's been a long time. I followed you on Facebook all the way through the West Coast there. I hope you had a great time.
It was beautiful. It was amazing.
I'm sure it was. You'll share that with us at some other time, but it's good to see you back. So here we are on Hanukkah, one of the most popular and enduring of Jewish holidays. Even Jews who are highly assimilated, who never go to shul or do anything religious, will still eat latkes. Is that the truth? I mean, they like their latkes. They like the menorah. And at least here in North America, give gifts, especially to the kinderlach, to the children.
Yeah.
Now, lighting the menorah, of course, is the main point of the holiday, right? The Talmud tells us that lighting one candle per day, is enough to fulfill the commandment. And the most zealous of the zealous add a candle for each night. So that on the last night of Hanukkah, we have 8 candles, plus the shamash. So even the most religiously lax among us is counted as one of the most zealous for this week. Because that is our custom, right? To light one additional candle each night. We also understand the origin of the custom of eating latkes and jelly donuts and other things that aren't healthy this week. It's all about the miracle of the oil. And then there's, of course, the giving of gifts, which, for kids, anyway, may seem to be the essence of the holiday. And my daughter Haley actually shared with me yesterday a new hit song for Hanukkah. You may have heard it. If you haven't, you should look it up on YouTube. It's called I Want a Puppy for Hanukkah. Okay? It's from the Jewish African-American rapper and the Hamilton star, David Diggs. And his song celebrates how Hanukkah is better than Christmas. And I'm not going to try and sing it because he's got a much better voice than I have. But some of the lyrics are as follows. Some kids write lists for their Christmas gifts, and they send them all off to their Santas. But I don't trip off a list for my gifts, because I'm a get it a cause. I got 8 chances. That's right, 8 nights, Festival of Lights. Go hard for a week with a +1. So you all keep stressing, be good, learn lessons, but Hanukkah is the best fun. And that was put out by Disney. It's really very cute. But really, take a moment and go and listen to this after Shabbat, of course. Listen to it on YouTube, David Diggs, Daveed, Diggs, David Diggs. So, what is it? What is it with the gifts? Is it really a Jewish custom, or is it an adoption of Christian customs so that the Jewish kids don't feel left out? And I hear this every year. People say, we copied the Christians by giving gifts at Hanukkah time. Well, it turns out that this question is actually more complicated than you might think, because many people get it wrong. Because what they do is they neglect to ask the question when they say to me, we're copying the Christians, giving gifts at Christmas time. But what they neglect to ask, the most important first question is, where does the custom of giving gifts at Christmas come from? Until you know that, then we can't say whether or not we copied them. Many Christians think it's an ancient custom, perhaps tied to the gifts the three wise men brought to the birth of Jesus. But research shows it wasn't a custom in North America until the mid-1800s. In the early 1800s in America, Christmas per se was not a big deal. But December was a time of what we call social inversion. When poor people would demand food, they would demand drink from the wealthy, and then they would celebrate in the streets. This was a holdover from the agrarian days when December was a downtime and the peasant farmers had a lot of free time. The elites basically wanted to turn Christmas into a home-centered holiday so as to get away from the general revelry through the month of December. Now, encouraging parents to give gifts to children was part of the process of turning Christmas into a home-based holiday. Santa Claus, with his armful of gifts, became a thriving sort of thing in the 1860s. By the turn of the century, marketers figured out that advertising toys to children was a way to get them to nag their parents into buying them. And so they started focusing on children. What happened with the Jews was a somewhat parallel process. Giving presents on Hanukkah was not part of the ancient Hanukkah rituals. Back in the 17th century, there was a Sephardic custom to provide for students and buy clothes for both pupils and teachers at Hanukkah time. What was the parallel there? Well, perhaps the custom came because the Hebrew word for education is what? Anybody know? Chinuch. Chinuch has the same root as Hanukkah. Okay, because chinuch doesn't really mean education. Chinuch means dedication. We use it as education, we mean dedication. And Hanukkah is dedication. So in the 19th century in Eastern Europe, the custom of giving children a little Hanukkah geld or money developed. It seems that the custom of Hanukkah geld was borrowed from the Christians who followed an ancient Roman custom of giving children money on holidays. Now, giving gifts at Hanukkah, at least for Jews in North America, is a custom that seems to have started in approximately the 1880s. In 19th century America, Hanukkah was a very neglected holiday. Many Jews didn't even know when Hanukkah was, and they didn't like candles. In the early 1900s, the Yiddish press actively encouraged parents to give their children Hanukkah presents so as to increase the youngsters' interest, their enthusiasm in this otherwise neglected holiday. Much in the same way that earlier Christians in America encouraged parents to buy children presents for Christmas to make it more attractive to their children. And by the 1920s, the Yiddish press was advertising anything and everything, from cars to waffle irons, as the perfect Hanukkah present. Now, just as Christians have had to cope with the commercialization of Christmas, Jews had to cope with the over-commercialization of Hanukkah, and have had to work to make sure children know there's more to the holiday than getting presents. It seems that instead of adopting a Christian custom, Jews and Christians both were responding to the similar outside forces, and were using gifts as a way to strengthen and reinforce their own holidays that wasn't getting the attention that many felt it deserved. And this is also probably an explanation of why giving presents became a Jewish custom, but the Hanukkah bush did not. Trees are seen as too much, a specifically Christian thing, not something that Jews have ever done. Also, since Christians in the old country didn't give Christmas presents, Jewish immigrants to America were able to see giving presents this time of the year as an American custom and not necessarily a Christian custom. And they were eager to adopt, as they assimilated into the American society, to adopt American customs. So now that we have a well-ingrained custom into our community of giving gifts at Hanukkah, we now have to find a way of adding Jewish meaning to the custom. After all, no good rabbi could possibly accept commercialization of a festival without tying it back to something. So here we go. There's several ways that we can do this. And the very first Hanukkah was celebrated in the temple and sacrifices were offered. What are sacrifices? We read it in the Torah. Nathanael ben Urishadai, wasn't it? Nathanael ben Urishadai? He brought his first today, and then tomorrow will be another one will bring gift. What is a sacrifice? A sacrifice is a gift from us to God. Okay? So Hanukkah is also a celebration of the rededication of the temple. And in the Torah, as I said just now, we are given a detailed list of the gifts that were brought at the dedication of the predecessor to the temple, the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And even though Hanukkah gelt may have originated with Eastern European Jews adopting local norms, we can also find a Jewish reason for that custom. The Talmud teaches us that everyone, even poor people, are obligated to light Hanukkah candles. So Hanukkah geld is a way to give tzedakah, to give charity, to make sure that everybody has the wherewithal to buy Hanukkah candles. Some people would say all of this is inappropriate, cultural, appropriation. After all, shouldn't everybody keep their own customs without imitating or stealing other customs from different people? Well, I'm going to tell you something. Cultural appropriation is inevitable whenever different cultures come into contact with each other. And no one, and I'm sorry to burst anybody's bubble here, but no one really knows when Jesus was born. Sorry about that, in case you were wondering. Some biblical scholars think that it was in the springtime. Some astronomers think he was born in October. Others believe he was born in the summer. So the question that one has to ask, if that's the case, why on earth is the birthday celebrated on December the 25th?
Cultural appropriation.
Bingo. You're quick. You pick up very quickly. Very. Cultural appropriation is exactly what it was. From a Roman holiday, Saturnalia, and as the Christians won over pagan converts, they didn't want to give up a fun holiday. So the Christians gave Christian meaning and spin to another holiday. Jews have a long history of doing the same thing. We take a custom that may have non-Jewish origins, and we put a Jewish spin on it, as in the Shalosh Regalim. The Shalosh Regalim, before you throw anything at me, let me finish. The 3 pilgrimage festivals being adopted from older pagan harvest festivals that fell at those times of the years. Any casual observer would assume that many of the Sukkot rituals, for example, waving agricultural products in the air and beating willows until the leaves fall off, must have pagan origins. The whole structure of the Pesach Seder is another example of Jewish cultural appropriation. It was modeled on the Greek symposium. That's why we have the word afikoman, exactly, okay, dessert. Even what, for many of us, is the essential symbol of Hanukkah, the latke, okay, comes from, isn't that how we really judge Hanukkah, how good the latkes were? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's so much you can do with a candle and oil, but I mean, latkes.
Classic Middle Eastern food.
The latke comes from cultural appropriation. Jews, I'm sorry to tell you, didn't invent potato pancakes. They didn't. They are, in fact, the national dish of Belarus and Slovakia. Yeah, sorry about that. But when potatoes were introduced into Eastern Europe, and with them potato pancakes, the Jew says, whoa, what a great way to celebrate Hanukkah. Lots of oil, okay? Now I sort of put a twist. I don't think that's really true, but I just added it. Enjoy your latkes and the Hanukkah presents. As much as Jews think of themselves as perhaps of people who are apart, and we also are very much part of and are influenced by the cultures that surround us. And we in turn have an outsized impact on those cultures. Such mixing is normal, and I have to tell you, it's a very, very good thing. It gives us a way to be a part of the world around us. And while still being uniquely Jewish by adding our own interpretations. Now the Germans eat latkes either salty or sweet with applesauce. But a great Jewish innovation that was added to that is to eat them with both what?
Sour cream.
There you go! Sour cream and applesauce. Oh yeah, brach, I tell you.
Ketchup.
And what?
Ketchup.
Oh, no, I've never heard of ketchup on a latke.
Well,
I'm
that
sorry.
was on the other fried potatoes.
Oh, okay. You've got to draw the line somewhere. I mean, that's, wow. And all I can say is, Hashem Yerachem Aleinu. May God have mercy on our waistlines and our stomachs. But nonetheless, have a wonderful Hanukkah. With Shabbat Shalom. We are going to continue our service with the Chatzi.